Welcome to the Resistance broadcast, everybody. Happy April! The flowers are blooming. Who knows? I haven't been outside in 12 days. But anyway, welcome to the show. This is our discussion show. We are going to get into the door that has been kicked open, wide open, by Ahsoka Tano coming to live-action Star Wars. What does that mean? Does that mean other big-name animated characters are going to come over to live-action at some point? Comic book characters, video game characters, who knows? We're going to discuss all that a bit later. With me, as always, James and Lacey. So, guys, if you had the opportunity to be in Star Wars, would you prefer to voice an animated character, or would you like to be do some live-action acting? So, James, which would you pick?
I mean, is this a question? I'd rather be live action, right?
Okay. I'll get into why I asked in a minute, but let me get your answers first, I guess. Lacey, how about you?
Live action, definitely.
Okay. So I was thinking about this from a very lazy perspective. And I was thinking, and it doesn't mean voice actors are lazy. What I'm trying to say is, if I could roll in or from my house, record my stuff and my jammies, instead of having to go like on location somewhere and still be in Star Wars, I would consider it, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But yeah, maybe I'd ultimately say
I think you're missing the having to do 4 seasons of work.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying it's not work, but being able to go downstairs and record your stuff from home or in a closet, as some say, just interesting to think about. But unfortunately, not everyone's going to be able to make that shift in actual Star Wars. But again, we'll get into that a bit later. James, I got news for you, buddy. I don't know if you're going to like it. I don't know if you're going to love it. But
I might agree with it.
Something is...
I might accept it.
Yeah, Lando style. Something is back, James. And I guess I'll let you tell us what is back with our next segment. First segment of the day. Go ahead.
I fear nothing, for all is as the Force wills it.
Cheer it! You're back, baby! Finally out of quarantine. It's good. I just want to take a second to thank Baze for all his work. He's essential, so he had to keep coming, you know. But cheer it. Thanks. And Will the Force, it is back. We haven't done it in a little bit. And this week we decided to do a full-on Resistance Officer edition. So all of our questions are going to be coming from Resistance Officers. So thank you in advance. Let's go ahead and get to the first one. This submission is going to come from Major Stephen Bowman. If anybody, side note, don't say it, but side note, if you know his middle initial, put it in the comments. The question is, will Sabine at least be mentioned in The Mandalorian Season 2 since the darksaber story is continuing and it appears we are getting Ahsoka? Lacey, I'm going to you first. What do you think?
I do not think that they'd mention Sabine. Okay. I think it could get a little confusing for people that like The Mandalorian and watch The Mandalorian that don't know all the info from Rebels. And if Ahsoka's in there, they're introducing a new character, it could start to get a little tricky, like the comics we were talking about last week, where it's like, who's Bob? You know?
I wish it was Bob.
I think that...
Hydra Bob?
No, they weren't. They aren't going to mention it at first. Maybe later, but not in this season.
All right, John, what do you think? Sabine?
No. I think Ahsoka's going to be in this show for 3 minutes in like this final chapter of the season to help Baby Yoda, a.k.a. Tiny, find his family or something like that. And then she's going to go off and be like, I'd love to stick around and take care of you, kid, but I got another friend to find. Bang, goes off and she's still searching for Ezra somewhere. I don't know. No, I don't think because of that, because she's only going to be there for a little bit, I don't think Sabine's going to come up either. So no.
So the time frame here is interesting too, because I think The Mandalorian takes place 4 years after Sabine and Ahsoka left to go find Ezra. But I think you guys are right that I don't think right now Sabine has any place in the show. And I think a reference to her, I mean, I could understand it being a nod or like an Easter egg, but I just don't think that it's there. She doesn't have a purpose because everybody watching the show is like, not everybody, but like the casual Mandalorian fan is like, who are they talking about? I have no clue who that is, and you can't be expected to know. So I'm gonna go with if she's not in the show, then they're not gonna talk about her. So the next one, Resistance Officer Admiral Nathan Merrick, and he wants to know, will Ahsoka? This is a very serious question, by the way. Will Ahsoka cradle sweet little tiny 6 pound 7 ounce little baby Yoda and hug him and kiss him and love him forever? I added the Talladega Nights to that question, but Lacey, you're going John, you're going first one on this one.
Oh, yay. Nathan, you're a funny guy. But I'm going to say no. She will not cuddle little tiny. He may look cute on the outside, but dude can do some serious damage. And I don't think he wants to be belittled in that way. He probably, once they find out his name, he's going to stop calling me Baby Yoda. I'm Tony. Tiny Tony. So no, she's not going to cuddle and kiss Baby Yoda.
So no cuddles, no kissing. What about cradling and hugging, Lacey? What do you think?
No, none of those things. I think Baby Yoda is adorable and hugged the little girl in episode 4 of season 1. I think the only cuddling and cradling we need to see is coming from Mando as his somewhat dad. Other than that, I don't think you're going to see that happen with other characters, especially not Ahsoka.
All right.
She might come in to save the day or something, but I don't think she's just going to be randomly picking up babies and hugging them.
Yeah, you bring in Rosario Dawson to cradle a puppet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, obviously 3 for 3. I think not to belittle the question, but I think it was kind of a jokey question. I don't think this is the place for it. I think we're just going to get Ahsoka and they'll be different and they might have some sort of confrontation, but I don't think it's going to be in a loving way. Watch, we're all going to be wrong. Next one is from Resistance Officer Commander Rick Villanueva. Rick asked us the question, will Michael Biehn be playing Dash Rendar in Mando Season 2? Lacey, I don't know how versed in Legends you are. Do you know Dash Rendar? I only know him really by name.
Yeah, I know a little bit about him. I just find it funny that as Star Wars fans, and I'm guilty of this too, as soon as they announce or we hear rumblings of someone being cast in Star Wars, the first thing we do is, oh, that must be Lando's daughter. Oh, that must be Rey's mom. Oh, it must be this character. I'm going to say...
Snoke is Plagueis. Can't be his own character.
DJ was Ezra.
Yeah, DJ is Ezra.
Dark
Thank
Jedi.
You.
It's right there. It's right there. Just take it.
Yeah, so as I was saying, no, I don't think he will be Dash Rendar. I think he's just going to be a bounty hunter like the other people that we've seen in the show so far. I don't think every character needs to be a character we know of. That's my answer.
That is great. That's fair. John, what do you think?
I feel like, and I'm not the first person who brought this up, so I can't take credit for it, but I agree with this, that I feel like Toro was like, hey, let's do a tribute / make fun of Dash Rendar a little bit, because he had the same gear as him and the same type of attitude and the Han Solo ripoff sort of thing. I think Toro was the nod to Dash Rendar for The Mandalorian. And so I don't think they're bringing in Dash Rendar into The Mandalorian. I'm a big believer in precedent, and I don't see them or Favreau taking a Legends or EU character and bringing him back. It appears he's really into creating these new types of characters and introducing new things into the mix to this point. I know there's a little bit of callbacks to Vizsla and that sort of thing from canon, but EU, unless I'm wrong, someone can correct me, I don't see anybody surfacing it to that point. So I believe in precedent first, and once that happens, then all bets are off. So I don't think Dash Rendar is showing up, and I don't think Michael Biehn's coming in to play Dash Rendar. It's going to be some old, new, cool, old, elder bounty hunter.
I agree. I think that there's a bigger chance that you're going to see new versus something that we've already seen. I've talked about that ad nauseam on the podcast. If you're a longtime listener, you see a sand planet, you go, well, that's got to be Tatooine, but it's more likely that it's not Tatooine than is this one thing. There's a million planets it could be, or it could be one. So your odds are bad. That being said, when I read this question, I thought, man, Dash Rendar to me, and I know very little about him, always put off like a total 80s action hero vibe. I don't know what it is. He never seemed like Han Solo to me. He seemed like Saturday morning cartoon, like G.I. Joe 80s action guy. I don't know. I can't explain it. And that is exactly who you would cast. You'd cast Michael Biehn. You'd cast this guy who kind of in a lot of ways was that. So I kind of see the connection. Like I get what you're getting at, and maybe other people too. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to happen. So that leads us to the last and final Will of the Force question.
We've agreed on everything so far?
So far, yeah.
Jeez.
The last one is, yeah. Well, whatever you say, I'll disagree with on this one.
Perfect.
The next one is going to come from Resistance Officer Admiral Nathan Shank. Nathan had an opportunity to ask us, will we see Yoda learn of the Rule of Two in the new High Republic series? So, John, you're going first on this one. What do you think?
So he means like the books, the new books and comics, unless I... Yeah. Well, first off, I just realized, I guess if your name is Nathan and you're a Resistance Officer, you're getting on the show today. So two of our questions came from Nathan's. But anyway, no, I'm going to say no. My reasoning is the Kia di Mundi saying the Sith had been extinct for a millennia. So unless he is incorrect with his dates, or millennias don't mean what they mean in Star Wars, it's been a long time, even 200 years before the prequels. So Yoda being 900 years old, if he did learn about the Sith and the Rule of Two, he learned about them well before the High Republic, I think. So I don't think Yoda's going to all of a sudden be 700 years old and be like, oh, that's interesting. That is something. So I think whenever he learned about the Rule of Two was before the High Republic era is my guess. So we'll go into the High Republic. If we see Yoda, he'll already be versed in this. We don't need to do a story with Yoda learning about the Rule of Two. I think that's a waste of time. So in the spirit of Shark Tank, for that reason, I'm going to say no.
I thought you were going to say I'm out.
I gotta go. I'll see you guys.
Lacey, what are your thoughts? Are you going to agree or disagree?
I agree with John. I think from what they've described about this era, it's like kind of like the heyday of Jedi, like peak Jedi. And if that's the case, I couldn't see them just learning about this at that time. They probably learned about this earlier than that, like John said. So yeah, I don't think Yoda's going to learn about the Rule of Two in the High Republic.
In the High Republic. All right, well, I said that I was going to disagree with John no matter what, so I'm going to say, yes, they will. But I have a pretty good reason. Okay. I have an okay reason, I think. Because you guys are saying that they've been extinct for a while, so it wouldn't make sense for him to find out about this later. But I actually think we could theoretically go into the High Republic being like, yeah, they're dead. They're gone. We clearly killed all of them off. And somewhere in the middle, we go, hold up, wait, we're just uncovering this stuff now. There's a new rule of 2, and there's a potential that they're just kind of handing it off to the next person. I wonder how long that's been going on. It clearly dates till the first time we're seeing it is after we thought we killed them. So maybe they are still around. Maybe there's a possibility that they're still handing off the reins. Nah, you're crazy, Yoda. And I think it could be possible. It could almost be a reveal of we thought we killed them, but here we're finding evidence that they've slowly and quietly been keeping themselves around in the shadows.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yoda seemed he was very certain at the end of the Phantom Menace what the deal was.
But in the Clone Wars, I don't know. I was going to say he was well aware that Bane was the one who brought on the rule of 2, but you're right. It doesn't necessarily say that when they're around. So yeah, you might be right. But that's it. Lacey, do you want to take us on to our next section? What's it called?
Yeah. Up now, not next, now, is the Patreon pod race. So there are a lot of ways for people to get involved and support us. And that includes liking this video, commenting, subscribing, following us on Twitter at RBATSWNN, and then also heading over to Patreon. It's a way to support what we're doing, new ideas and content that we have. And then there are different commanders that you can be, different officers, and each one gives you different access and exclusive content. And that's at patreon.com/resistance broadcast. So our top tier are our generals, and they get a chance to be a part of the show. This week, it's our rotating slot, which is all the newer people, which we're super excited about. And this week is General Michael Gaines. And his question, which he has 60 seconds to answer, is, as a fan of both Star Wars and Star Trek, which fan base is more serious, and what's the biggest difference between the two fan bases, in your opinion? Michael, take it away.
Hey guys, I want to thank you for having me on for the pod race. As you can see, for those that are not watching the video, I have a Star Trek The Motion Picture and a Rogue One poster up in my office. I've been a fan of both since practically day one of both fandoms. I was 9 when Star Wars came out. Star Trek came around, I was watching in the 3rd season on NBC. Which one has more serious fans? Anybody would tell you that both of them are. They're passionate fans. I've been to Star Trek conventions for years. They're both very passionate fans. The difference between the fandoms is a little different, though. Star Trek has always been about hope for the future, the future of humanity. Star Wars, just as good in its own way, but is still in my opinion, just a space fantasy about good and evil. But it still allows people to want to be better. Then that's my minute is up, and that's all I have to say. I want to thank you all, and be safe, everybody. Thanks.
Awesome job, Michael. Love your posters. Got a nice little setup there. John, what do you think of Michael's answer?
Diplomatic, smart approach.
He spotted it.
Yeah. Right? Is that how they do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I held up for the audio listeners. I did the Spock hand sign.
Live long and prosper.
No, I think you did a good job there, Michael. Good job on your first pod race. I know we had talked about it in our Admiral and General Skype call, and spoiler alert, you said you were purposely trying to wear your General's TRB shirt, and then you realized you had put a sweatshirt over it, defeating the purpose. But we know it's there. So, no, you're saying
it's
Star
like
Trek.
Hera, it's just off camera, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. You hear it, and then but that Star Trek is about the future of humanity and more kind of a realistic sentiment they're trying to put out there, where Star Wars is more of a space fantasy, and that's where the differences are, but that the fan bases are both very serious and that sort of thing. So I don't know much about Star Trek. I'm not a big Star Trek fan, so hearing that vantage point is interesting to me because fan bases are always so crazy, and for you to say that they're just as serious as Star Wars fans, I actually take a little bit of solace in that, because Star Wars fans can be very serious and a little too serious sometimes. So I'm always curious what's going on in other fandoms and that sort of stuff. But again, good job. Thanks for all your support, and live long and prosper.
Prosper. Yeah.
Yes. Well done. Yeah, Michael, I think you did a great job. Again, love your setup. As someone that has worked events for both Star Wars and Star Trek fans, I can tell you that they are very similar. They're a little different, like profile-wise. If you were to make a profile of each individual, like the Star Trek fans are a little bit more sci-fi driven, whereas I feel like Star Wars fans are kind of like a mixed bag. You get all different types of people that like Star Wars, and they're more on the pop culture side. Like you said, not necessarily science fiction and very specific. It's more like sci-fi, fantasy, adventure. But they're both super passionate groups of people. They really love what they love, which I can appreciate. So yeah, I think no matter what fandom it is, you're gonna find people that are super serious about it. And that goes for anything nowadays. As we learned, there's a huge fandom for Triscuits now, which we're all aware of, according to the internet.
That's last week, Lacey. It's last week's news.
Sorry. Yeah, but it started last week. But now it's a thing, James. Electricity biscuits is a thing. So there's fandoms for everything. And I think that we just have to appreciate it for what it is and not take things so seriously, like John said. James, what do you think?
Yeah, no, just real quick, because, yeah, I think you did a great job. Good job. Noting specifically, I'm almost up on my minute. I thought that was funny. The one thing I'd like to say about the Star Trek, Star Wars back and forth is that the fans of Star Trek are going to always be any fandom that's as passionate about their stuff as they get. Star Trek is one of them. And I know this because they don't like J.J. Abrams. So there's a huge collective of people who don't like J.J. Abrams because of the 2009 Star Trek movie. And I remember there were headlines about how there was like this official thing at one of the latest Star Trek conventions that they were doing like this big poll of like the best Star Trek movies, and Galaxy Quest was like way higher than any of the J.J. Abrams movies, because they're just like, those aren't Star Trek movies, and like Galaxy Quest is more of a Star Trek movie. So it's like they have their hatred, and it's funny that J.J. somehow got stuck in both, man. But or he luckily got to do both. It's however you want to look at it. But yep, thanks lots for the pod race. Yeah, it's good info.
Awesome. So now we're going to head to John for the discussion.
Live action. All right, guys, we're going to talk about more Star Wars animated characters are likely going to appear in live action.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Guys, the door has been blown wide open with Ahsoka Tano reportedly heading to live action in The Mandalorian Season 2. While we've seen animated/live action crossovers on a smaller name scale, this is a big-time move for Star Wars, without a doubt, which means more moves are probably coming. So more animated Star Wars characters will likely appear in live action going forward, which means we could see comics and video game characters too. So let's discuss which ones we think we may see make the jump, which ones make sense, why this is a good thing for the franchise, and speculate on how we may see some characters we already know appear in future live action content. So I'll start off by saying it's an interesting thing, and I have to eat some crow here because I never thought that this would happen on this sort of big scale. I knew about the pepperings in, and there goes Chopper going by, and there's we hear General Syndulla in the background, and yes, all those people, when there's more of us show up in The Rise of Skywalker, Matt Martin says, yeah, all those people were in those ships. Cool. But this is a game changer, and like I said, I have to admit I was wrong. I did not think we would see Ahsoka in live action ever, because I always base my opinions based on precedent, and if it hasn't happened yet, I lean towards it not happening. So there's still a lot for me to process with this. Who I think's coming, I'm not sure, so I just want to kick things off with you guys here. Lacey, were you surprised that they did it, and where did you stand with this? Were you in my boat, or did you expect this to eventually happen? And why don't you kick this off? Do you think we're going to see more people now that the floodgates are open, and who may we think? Let's get the ball rolling here.
So I'm totally in your boat, unfortunately, of I didn't think Ahsoka was ever going to happen. And unfortunately, in the sense of I feel like an idiot, because we asked this question like, I feel like a year ago. And I was like, no way. There's no way. It won't, the transition from that to that would never happen. It wouldn't look right. I gave a ton of answers of why it wouldn't happen. And it's like Dave Filoni heard them and was like, oh, yeah. And now it's happening, which I couldn't be happier for all the Ahsoka fans. I'm not a gigantic Ahsoka fan. I'm a fan of Ashley's more than Ahsoka. But the idea that this character that everybody loves is making that transition to live action is super exciting, because there are a lot of characters that I like in animation, and especially in the video games, that I would love to see move to live action. Like, I love Darth Revan. I think he's amazing, and I would love to see him in live action. I like Bastilla Shan. I would love to see her in live action. Now, are we going to get those? I don't know. We've talked a lot on this show over the past few years about how the next movies might be Old Republic, and there's rumors about it, and that means those characters could come to life. I would love to see it. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon based on the High Republic announcement. I think that's where kind of those next movies were going to go, is that High Republic time, which would not correlate with my wants. Mm-hmm. That being said, I could definitely see Thrawn making the jump to live action. We talked about this a little bit in a Patreon video, actually, about that, ever since I saw that banner at Celebration where they clearly used Pierce Brosnan as some type of character study for Thrawn, that I'd love to see it. I think he's a great villain. I think a ton of people love it. I was in the room at Celebration 2016 in Europe, in London, when they announced that Thrawn was in the show, and people lost it. Like, we're talking screaming, standing up, cheering. Not like Force Awakens lost it. That was a different monster. But to see fans get this excited about an animated character, and for a character to make a transition into the animated show, and that was the reaction, imagine what it would be if he then transitioned to live action. Like, people would lose their minds. And I think it would just be really fun to hate him, because as we've talked about, like, we need a good villain again. We need a good guy a good guy to hate, not a good guy, a good guy to hate. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
James, what's good points there, Lacey? James, what's your starting point on this? Were you wrong? What was your? I know for a while you had said it'd be weird to see the transition, just from an aesthetic point of view. But
well, if I remember correctly, it was even me. You've stated as the reason you changed your mind. It wasn't
100%. Yeah. And this is dating back like 2 years.
Yeah, so
it was like the fall of 2018. I think.
And think about that too. Like 2 years ago, when we're making these decisions and we're kind of burying our minds into, will this ever happen? There is no Mandalorian. There's no Disney Plus. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no 3 live action series coming. It's just, do you think that Ahsoka, the character from Clone Wars and Rebels and maybe a couple other little things here and there, is ever going to be in the next Star Wars movie? It's like, probably not, right? Yeah, probably not. Now things are starting to change. We've kind of stuck to our guns saying we don't think it's going to happen, but it did happen. And John, it's funny that you mentioned the precedent thing, because we'll probably talk a little bit about this, but there has been precedent for a Clone Wars character making a live action, bringing that in. And what's weird about that is, like, to me personally, let's go back to that time. we had The Force Awakens. It came out. We liked the movie. Then they were doing this Rogue One movie, and we're like, okay, cool, spin-off movie. We don't know what it is. Standalone, anthology, could be a million different things. And I remember the description for Saw Gerrera coming in as, hey, we have this idea for a character, and he's kind of like this. And the story group goes, interesting. We actually already have a character that's very similar to that. Let's go ahead and replace this character that, I guess Gareth Edwards, or like whoever invented that character. Let's replace him with a character that we already have from another TV show who has literally nothing to do with this. But other than the fact that we like the idea of bringing an animated character into live action, making this all connective, all this other stuff. I don't know where things changed. But after that happened, we've just held on hope that this is going to be more likely, and it's very rarely happened. And I still kind of have this weird thing as like, I don't know why it's not happening. Like, there isn't, to me, a good enough reason why you're like, hey, we have to have 100 people here on Agent Kloss, after we land, and it's just a bunch of random people and whatever. Why isn't there a team that says, hey, let's get Christopher Sean, let's hook him up. We know him, he's here, we want him, it makes sense that he would be in the fight. Who didn't make that connection and just bring him in to? They got Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, okay. So obviously he was like involved or whatever. He came to visit the set and they were like, hey, we've got random spots. So what's the deal? Why can't you bring in some of these people? And it almost makes me feel like it's a story group thing where they're starting to get weirded out by, and they just don't want to do that. They just rather like avoid it altogether or something. I don't know. The whole like background character being brought to live action, I'm not even asking for their own Disney Plus series. I don't need to see Cad Bane to be the main villain, but like sometimes it just drives me a little nuts sometimes when it's like, come on, man, why can't you just hire this person or hire someone to play that person,
Imagine if in The Rise of Skywalker, like a ship opens, the helmet comes off and it's Christopher Sean. That's all the moment was.
Yeah.
People would have lost it.
Let's be fair too. People wouldn't have lost it. 99% of people would not have lost it.
I'm saying Resistance fans would have lost
If
it.
you know who that is, It means the world to you. And you know what?
Right.
Like, I came out of that movie and I said, I feel like I saw someone who looked similar. And it turns out it wasn't Christopher Sean. You go back, rewatch it, it's not him.
But that small moment could have meant so much to so many people.
Why couldn't it have been him?
Not even that.
He's just walking
Christopher
around
Sean.
in the back. Yeah.
They probably because they didn't want to pay to fly him out to England and get him in the suit and the hair and all that stuff and do it, as opposed to just having Steve, who's a key grip, throw a vest on and do it.
Yeah, but you're paying.
Lin-Manuel Miranda
who's the guy
visiting set, and they gave him an extra vest, and they're like, "You want to be in there?"
I understand that, but look at like what's the Curb Your Enthusiasm guy you like?
Jeff Green.
Jeff Green is probably costs more money to be in that movie than it was to fly out Christopher Sean and
Jeff
have
Green
give him a
probably knows Kathleen Kennedy's sister or something. Like,
but you think he was like, "Yo, get me in the movie. I want to be in Star Wars." Like, I think it was just like something that was like a gig, and he's like, what the heck, whatever. I don't know.
Well, and you bring up a good point though, that it's not so. There's this whole thing, like you say, where it's like, all right, well, they're going to bring in Sabine in live action. And then, a bunch of fans are like, so a Sabine series. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that. It's like, Sabine could pop in one episode here and there. She could pop in this series and then go in this series. Or then you could bring in Cad Bane. He could be, pop in Mandalorian, but then he can go on a bounty hunter series and do this over there. So it's not always the all or nothing. Like, we always want to go to the all or nothing. The same way we want to identify new characters or new actors as they're playing somebody familiar, like we talked about before, Lacey. It's that sort of same type of vibe, the whole all or nothing thing. But I agree with you, James. It's something that can happen. It probably will happen. And you say like the precedent. For me, the precedent wasn't there because Saw Gerrera to me, which I mentioned in the open, it's happened with smaller characters. Saw Gerrera to me is a small character. Ahsoka's you're changing everything.
Yeah.
Saw Gerrera, they creaked the door open to see who was inside. Ahsoka, it was like, boom! Both doors swing open. Now, there we go. Toontown, the wall busted open. All the toons are running in, like at the end of Roger Rabbit. That's what's going on here now.
That was a great reference.
So, a great movie. I love that movie. Except the sad part where they dip the shoe in the dip.
The shoe. Oh gosh,
my
no.
God, horrible.
No, why did you bring it up?
Well, he's going to come to live action Star Wars. I didn't know if you knew
Just
that.
the shoe.
The
The shoe.
anytime
Playing
you see
Ahsoka.
Actually, the shoe was in
the suit.
Last Jedi.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So anytime you see a shoe, it's that shoe from Roger Rabbit. They just don't say it and spell it out for you. But I'm thinking about like Cameron Monaghan, who Lacey, sweet brag. We saw him at the premiere for The Rise of Skywalker
A couple times.
He's loving being Cal Kestis and being in Star Wars, and that game was beloved. He did actual movements and the physicality, and they had to capture his motion, Andy Serkis style, for the video game story parts. He can now come in and maybe do something for a Fallen Order
character
series.
looks just like him. Yeah.
And you know what's funny?
Yeah.
I forget sometimes that it's a game. That we talk about Fallen Order and how great it is so much in the story mode and how cool it was and how much fans love it. And sometimes I forget, well, he didn't play. He's a video game character. He can now come in and do stuff. So, I mean, the video game option is there. Then you have comic characters. A lot of people love Aphra. Like, is that a possibility where you get a cameo of her and they need somebody to go find an artifact or something like that? There's so many things that they can add in as an Easter egg, but a bigger Easter egg. So again, it's not someone getting their own series, but it's someone could pop in here and there. And like you said, James, instead of it being, scavenger number 6, it's Dr. Aphra or, whatever you want to call the situation. And I'm totally down with that. But I want to ask you guys this. We have 2 series that are coming out that haven't filmed yet. Cassian probably going to get delayed now again because of the pandemic. That thing's not going to start filming in June now. Obi-Wan is slated to be filming in January. So you have 2 series right now confirmed that are going to be happening. Who do you think could show up in Cassian Andor? And who do you think could show up in the Kenobi series out of animation or comics?
I'm going to let James go first.
Well, I'll let you handle the Obi-Wan stuff because the Cassian Andor stuff is closer to home for me. And if we have any sort of like reference point on when this might take place, you're button right up against Rebels. So the question becomes like, well, you just got to start wondering what Rebels characters are we going to see in here? And again, this is that perfect opportunity because it doesn't have to be Ezra. It doesn't have to be Kanan. It doesn't have to be Sabine. Like, there's so many times when these characters are interacting with other people in this world, an officer, a member of the Empire who just happened to be the captain of that ship or something. You can cross these people over, and it just opens so many different. I don't know.
Rook.
Happiness. Yeah. There you go. I mean, but also, yes, like I his is a little weird because he's like, he got pulled in very specifically for one thing, but no, I mean, you've got, see, I'm still on that. I can't remember people's names all of a sudden. But
well,
she's the governor of Lothal, Price. Is that right?
Yeah. Price. Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, like characters like that would be really interesting to see. Obviously, you could cast from Indiana Jones, right? Everybody jokes around about her.
Yes. Yeah. She does look like. Now I can't think of her name. What is wrong with me today? With us today?
It's contagious. I guess. I don't know. We're blanking on all the names.
What about, would it be weird or too hard to, I guess it wouldn't be too hard to bring a live action Zeb, or would that look too cartoony, like a theme park character?
I think they could do it. I think it might look a little weird, but yeah, I think they could do it. I think as long as I think it's one of those things where we'll just like how they have the technology of the Mandalorian. I think there's a good chance that you could watch it and you could be like, I still can't wrap my head around that's not a real person. That's a CG character, you know?
Yeah. They may even get someone in a suit for that.
Maybe, yeah. We've never seen a species before in live action, whereas like Cad Bane we've seen Turos.
What about Kanan Jarrus? Could he pop in a Cassian series?
Well, then that's almost just as bad as the Ahsoka thing, right?
And do you do it
because
before
if you
he reveals?
If you don't cast Freddie Prinze Jr., I mean, and to talk about that too, real quick, because I want to get on Obi-Wan and other options too, but like, just I want to say it really quick. There's also the retcon live action appearance. So it's like, I don't know how this all shook out, but the whole like, that guy from Return of the Jedi, we're making that Rex. You know what I mean? They can later say, oh, it was a different actor. It's not the same voice person, whatever. It doesn't really matter. We're going to say that was that person. And that also brings into question, since they're willing to recast Ahsoka, a famous or well-known, well-accepted voice actor, for a different live-action actor, there's nothing that they can't later say, yeah, that wasn't Christopher Sean, but that was Kaz. They just haven't confirmed it. It looked like, something that he could be wearing, so that's maybe what tipped me off. I mean, it's not to say that these characters still aren't there. We're not looking at them. We haven't been staring at them for 40 years and just not putting the pieces together. And they could come in and say, oh, yep, that person right there, that's the officer from this comic book. You never picked up on that? Well, we're confirming it.
All right. Yeah, so you're thinking more Rebels because of the timeline. So, Lacey, Kenobi, we're expecting a lot of people to come in there. We're probably a lot of people are expecting Uncle Owen via Joel Edgerton.
Right.
By the way, that was Kate Blanchett, James, by the way.
Nice.
People are expecting, what's his name? Liam Neeson, Qui-Gon Jinn, probably live
Baby
action.
Luke.
Baby Luke. But do you think that they'll interject some crossovers from animation, maybe from Obi-Wan's past in memories or something like that, or other characters just for the sake of Easter eggs? Do you think Kenobi's going to dabble as well, the way Cassian might?
I think it's a little trickier with Kenobi just because of how big of a role he plays already in live action. It's a little trickier than like the Mandalorian or even the Cassian, because we only got one movie with Rogue One and it's kind of this one adventure from beginning to finish. And whereas Obi-Wan, we kind of see like his whole process, and then we get all the Clone Wars series, and then we also get, original trilogy, stuff like that. I think the big thing everybody wants in Kenobi that I see over and over and over again is Cad Bane. Everybody wants that to happen. I don't know if that's gonna happen. But I think for me, the big question is if they're gonna handle Darth Maul at all. And I say that in the sense of it's a different Darth Maul than we meet in live action. We would be kind of reacting and referencing the one in the animated series, right? Like, because that would be the time period. So that would be the Maul we would see. It wouldn't be the one we know. So how would they handle that? And I guess that's my question.
It could be the Solo Maul.
Like Solo a little bit?
Yeah.
Do you think...
Real quick, what about Satine?
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we could probably see her in flashbacks. I think that's the only way you're going to see her.
Yeah.
And I think that you're going to have to address it. I think it's a big kind of question mark, but it's going to be interesting because people that don't watch the animated series aren't going to know who she is.
That's a good point. I mean, watching this show and they just dive into like this past and everybody's like,
Jedi don't have love interests. Yeah, they're going to be so confused. Right. Yeah,
it's a weird reveal that you come out of nowhere. But then again, this is why we love Solo. Solo didn't care. Solo was like, what makes the most sense right now? Darth Maul? Oh yeah, absolutely, because he's doing this at this time. This makes sense.
And I loved it, and everybody did.
Yes, it's great. Yeah.
It didn't matter that some people were confused. Like, my buddy Chad was like, I didn't didn't know this movie takes place before the Phantom Menace, and he was serious. He wasn't joking around because he's like, Darth Maul died because he had no idea about.
Matt said, "Didn't
you know?
Darth Maul die?"
Yeah, and they took it. They took the chance, and I'm glad they did. Now,
Right.
I agree with you, Lacey. I think Satine would be a little strange from the perspective of the general audience who are going to see Kenobi, who watched all the movies, and they're seeing Ewan McGregor back. This doesn't make sense to me. When did this happen? While he was training Anakin? Well, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It would be cool for diehards, and it would be nice connectivity with the Clone Wars. That was a huge arc. And that's why I don't think you're going to see Bo-Katan showing up in Kenobi either. I don't think... One I think could be interesting is Captain Rex, maybe a little mini reunion. I don't know. That could be possible if they wanted to do it.
Or Cody.
Get Tamir Morrison and just be like, hey, dude, do you want to do some stuff? And he's like, I ain't working. I'll do something for you. And he just shows up
too
and they
much
film
to
a few
fly him
shots.
out. You know what I mean?
Eat it, James. Seriously. Just so I think that's possible, though. But who knows? I don't think Kenobi needs it maybe as much. I feel like Kenobi is going to be one of those like Logan type of stories where it's very limited character focus and it's about this one character's journey. Whereas I feel like the Cassian series can be just like Coruscant-y in it, not literally, but just like people everywhere, a lot of going on, espionage, and you could just dunk characters in a bigger palette. So that's interesting to me. And now then let's shift to the potential of other series. You know, there is that rumor of Ahsoka springboarding off of a cameo in The Mandalorian into her own series. What could that do? Because we, James, as you say, we leave Ahsoka last, aside from her voice cameo in The Rise of Skywalker, with her and recruiting Sabine to go say, let's go bring our boy home. If they do a series for Ahsoka, do they date it back and not necessarily have it anything to do with the Mandalorian time frame? Do they go back a few years and do that and do a live action version of that? Who can show up there? So what do you guys think about a potential Ahsoka series? We can touch on that lightly since it has been reported, at least. Do you guys think, Sabine, do you think we're going to see other people from Rebels in that era? Do you think we'll see a Jason Syndulla? Do you think that sort of stuff's going to go on?
When it comes to Ahsoka and the whole like backdoor pilot rumor, I think that confirms one thing specific. You're only going to get Ahsoka in one episode because the backdoor pilot for Mandalorian season 1 was Ming-Na Wen, right? The Fennec Shand.
When you say backdoor pilot, do you mean they're going to create a Fennec Shand show?
Yeah. That's
I didn't know that. I must have missed that story. All right.
So in a lot of series, what they'll do is they'll bring in like a character and they bring that character in to see if there's a potential for a spinoff.
Right.
And they're not like planning long term with this character. They're not someone that's going to be in the show because they want to do a spinoff. It's almost like, hey, we want to do a spinoff of blank show. How could we do it? Well, okay, then let's introduce a character, see if people like it. And if they like it, then we have our way in.
When did they say that?
Not, what?
When was this Fennec Shand thing said?
I don't remember that either, but
I think it was said with the news of Rosario Dawson. Like it was that Ahsoka was being looked at as a backdoor pilot, much like how the Fennec Shand character was. It was like, we have this one character, we have an idea. If people really like it or connect with it, then we know that we could spin off with that character or whatever.
She didn't do anything in that episode. What? And I'm not saying this to you, James. I'm saying in general. Like, what? Just because it's Ming-Na Wen? What? That makes no sense.
Well, I mean, okay, when we were even talking about that character going into the show, we were like, oh, she's great on this show. She's not doing anything anymore because Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. is done.
Sure.
We see potential with this character. I think that's what they were going for too. The weird thing is that she kind of dies in the episode. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like
it's
she
kind of a
didn't
weird
do anything.
Kind of a weird scenario. All right, but getting back to Ahsoka, I think that confirms that she's probably only going to show up for one episode, and I think what they're going to do with her is something that's very clearly like cool and mysterious and see if they can invoke a lot of like public interest beyond Star Wars fans in general over what this character could be. And if they react to that, then Dave Filoni's like, well, sweet. I wrote her in just to write her in, to check that off of a list. And in my opinion, I think that's kind of what he's doing. But if it takes off and they're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and greenlit this thing, then he also secures his job for working a partnership with another director, whoever is going to do the Ahsoka spinoff show, because he's got the character. Mandalorian can wrap up, or he can leave that with Jon Favreau for as long as he wants to do it, but he still works closely with Lucasfilm. I'm talking a lot, but I see all of that, and it is very clear to me that that's kind of just the roadmap.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing that stands out clear to me. First of all, if they're going to do an Ahsoka series, Dave Filoni's going to be the showrunner. I mean, I think that makes sense. I don't see them giving that to anybody else. If they're going to make an Ahsoka series, he's going to be the guy, in my opinion. But you don't cast Rosario Dawson for a one-off cameo, so they have intentions of doing more with this character by bringing in an actress of her caliber. If they were just doing a one-off where Ahsoka's going to dunk in for 3 minutes, then maybe you give it to Ashley Eckstein. And do the right thing and give her that opportunity, and then say, all right, that was great. Ahsoka dunked in, little fan service. She got to be Ahsoka in live action like she always wanted to. They have bigger plans for the character, clearly, to bring in a bigger actress like Rosario Dawson. You just don't do it for her to come in for a few minutes and keep it under wraps and that sort of thing. This isn't a fun Easter egg. Horatio Sands is coming in to play an alien in The Mandalorian. This is kind of a big deal. So I think just because of the actress alone, it makes sense that they're going to do way more with Ahsoka. Lacey, do you think that's on point? Or is it possible that they're like, hey, fans wanted you to do this. Do you want to put on all this makeup for 12 hours and then play this character for 30 seconds?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in a weird spot. And this goes back to how I felt years ago when we talked about this in the first place, which obviously it seems like this is happening. It's so weird to me that we have a character that started in an animated series, continued in an animated series, went into another animated series, and then they're like, okay, now it's live action. And now she's going to get her own TV show, and it's live action. I think the cameo makes more sense than giving that character a full TV show. Whereas the full TV show to me, if I'm a brand new fan to Ahsoka, I'm going to be like, oh, this is cool. What else does she do? And then I'm like, oh, animated series? That's kind of weird. So she started on an animated series and then went to live action? You know what I mean? Like, it seems weird to me. So I'm going to start with the cameo. I agree with you, John. I don't think you bring Rosario Dawson in just for a cameo, but at the same time, they have people come in and say one line in movies. So it's not that weird. I could see it being like a, hey, this is a cool, fun, fan servicey thing.
You don't bring in Lin-Manuel Miranda to be the guy in a vest.
Right? And like, he didn't even do anything. He just showed up in the background.
Yeah.
Like, Oscar-nominated guy. So
yeah, it
could literally, like, John Williams was in the movie just to look at the camera for 2 seconds. So I don't think we can make the argument of, oh, well, you wouldn't bring someone in this good to
yeah, but
just
John Williams is not an actor, though. That was
correct.
Thanks for being awesome.
But also, I would
that.
say this. Besides Ashley herself, right? Do you think there's any other goodwill to the fan base as like a fan casting for Ahsoka? So maybe it's like, hey, we want to do Ahsoka just for like some quick stuff. Who we're going to get? Probably not Ashley. Sorry. But who do we think we could get? Is there any chance that we could get the biggest, like, that viral craze that Rosario Dawson would be a great Ahsoka? She said she'd love to play it. If we could snag her, even though it's just like a one-time thing, man, wouldn't people love that? You know?
Right. Wouldn't fans want 2 seconds of Ahsoka, then no seconds of Ahsoka?
Well, I'm even looking at and who they're getting. Like if there was a fan cast for Arnold Schwarzenegger as some character, they decide they're going to bring in that character. They're like,
all right, but
who? I'm just saying, but who would we get to play? It's like, well, the fans already did this like viral thing where they would love to have Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you think he would do it? Do you think we could get him for a cameo?
I know we're joking about like the Lin-Manuel Miranda thing. I had to look at his name. I always forget how to say that guy's name. He has like 7 names. I'm like Manuel Lin. I don't know. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Hamilton. Got it. It's definitely not a situation where Rosario Dawson's like, hey, Favreau, I'm going to pop over on set. What are you guys doing? And he's like, you know what?
Yeah.
We're going to write in Ahsoka to this episode.
We're not saying that.
No. I know. I'm not saying either one of you are saying that, but I'm saying like we have said, oh, well, they just slapped a vest on that guy and this person popped in there and Kevin Smith played a stormtrooper.
Sure.
They had this was a huge plan in place. You had to have the makeup designed ahead of time and the CGI for the horns and all that stuff. This was a big undertaking. And that's again why Ashley Eckstein saying she doesn't know about it is just silly to me. But it is a big deal. And I just, it's so hard for me to believe that they're going to create those assets and do all of that for this character who means so much to fans just for her to be like, hey, everybody. All right, I'm out. So I believe this thing that they're doing a series for her.
They built a puppet for probably like weeks, maybe even months, that fits 3 people in it.
Yep.
And they picked it up with a helicopter and they placed it on an island just so Mark Hamill could milk it.
I know. Star Wars Newsnet had the scoop on it. I know. I get it. But
right.
it's a
I'm
puppet.
saying... Right, but I'm saying that they have gone through big steps for short moments. That's what I'm saying.
I think the milk puppet, Thalasiren, is in a completely different category than one of the most beloved characters in the franchise right now.
That's fine. You can downplay what I'm saying. That doesn't change the point that I'm saying that
I'm not downplaying what you're saying. I'm just disagreeing with you.
Effort.
I'm just disagreeing with you. I'm not downplaying what you're saying. I'm just disagreeing with you.
A ton of effort and man hours and creativity went into that thing. So I'm saying that for us to sit here and be like, well, they put a lot of work in the makeup and the moment and the blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean that she's going to get her own series. That's all I'm saying is that it could just be her on screen for one episode, couple minutes. Everyone's happy. It's awesome. We love it. And then that's it. That could be it. I'm saying it's a huge jump to then assume she's getting a series. That's all I'm saying.
Whether it's a series or not, I'm just saying I am completely convinced that it's not going to be a one and done thing. Mainly because of the Rosario Dawson aspect, to be honest. But that's just my take.
You know, in a weird way too. I don't know if this is a good comparison or not, but I joked about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and what I probably should have brought up was Sylvester Stallone in the Guardians movies. You know, isn't that sort of in a weird way like a backdoor setup for potentially other things that he could be in?
What character was he playing?
He was playing one of the Rangers, right?
That's what I mean, though. Again, we're talking about a beloved character that some fans consider their Luke Skywalker here. We're not talking about Ranger Joe Sylvester Stallone. I get the comparison, but in a sense, but I'm just not with you on that. But that's fine.
Yeah, it's like bringing in Wolverine to the MCU, but just for a one-time cameo, and it's played by Michael Fassbender or something.
They brought in all the X-Men, and then they didn't have any lines.
Yeah, they brought in people who have already been playing those roles, and it's like, hey guys, we're gonna come say hello and then go away. Again, this is a new first-time thing, bringing in a big actress. That's just my take. I don't think it's going to be a one and done thing. I could be wrong.
All right, we can agree to disagree.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's just, I now have been wrong before. I didn't think we'd see Ahsoka in live action, but here we go. So I'll probably be wrong again. Are there any other, to wrap this up, any other animated or video game characters that you think we could see in the future? Just fun little predictions to close this out.
I mean, you brought up Cal Kestis. That's a great one. That's an easy win if they have a show that's somewhere around the same time frame. I mean, even Obi-Wan, You know, like we were talking about that earlier. We don't know what this character is doing around that particular time frame. This is roughly shortly after Revenge of the Sith. You could have that guy come in. I mean, theoretically, he's another Jedi out there. You know, you could bring him in. That would be interesting.
Other video games? I'm not a big video gamer. Are there battle like Iden Versio? Like could Janina just pop in a show?
Not really.
No?
Yeah, not really. She
died?
takes place.
Did she die? Is that spoiler?
She's kind of in that. She's kind of all over the place. She could be in The Mandalorian. She could be in post or pre A New Hope stuff if they wanted to potentially. I mean, she's all around. She died around the time of Force Awakens, so it's like, and then her like intro to the series was the first Death Star being blown up. So it's like,
right. She looks up. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Lacey, any others come to mind?
Not really. I think I've fully said it. I think I would like more video game characters to make the jump to live action because they're already there. You're already looking at the character as that person, especially nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think they're going to have more games coming out. And who knows? Maybe we haven't even scratched the surface on this High Republic stuff because those characters obviously may eventually. We may have to open up that door again once we hear more about that, but we're up against it now. So let us know what you guys think. It is exciting either way that door has been kicked open now. So plenty of other characters can make their jump to live action, whether it's small roles or big roles or whatever. So let us know who you would like to see. If there were some we didn't mention, hit us up in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter at RBATSWNN. The whole deal. So we hope you enjoyed the discussion. But now we are going to hear from all of you out there in our next segment, Resistance Transmissions. Lacey, what's going on?
All right, guys, it's time for Resistance Transmissions. So the way that this works is that every week, John puts up a crazy, wacky situation on Twitter, and you guys give your answers. And I've never seen the scenario. I don't know what your answers are, so I'm going to read them live. All right, so the scenario is, if the Star Wars galaxy had a pandemic lockdown, pick any droid and how they would take advantage of it since they can't get sick. Where would they go? What would they do? All right. First up is Mark Newbold at prefect_timing. And Mark said, dodging the Rotghoul virus. Is that from a book or something? What is that from?
I don't know.
Mark, you're making me look like a bad fan right now. BB-8 travels to the corporate sector and clears out all the slot machines in Canto Bight and then gambles it all away at the Outlander Club on Coruscant.
That sounds like a night.
Nice. Next is Edman Zombie at Ed59, spelt out as the words with an underscore at the end. And Ed said, General Grievous has informed his employer, separatist leader Count Dooku, that he has a terrible cough and has been told to self-isolate for 14 days. He plans to use this time to create a new shelf for his lightsaber collection. I have to tell you, in the time that I've been home, I've done so much cleaning and organizing. I've redone my whole workspace, so I can totally sympathize with this. Next is Johnny O at Limey Printmaker, who said, Chopper becomes the new emperor.
That is ambitious.
It is.
He would.
Next is Micah Harrison at Micah X Machina. And Micah said, R5D4 would finally take time for himself and get that good motivator he has always wanted. Hashtag
Nice.
self-love. Hashtag treat yourself. I agree with that. Next is Stephen Bowman at Stephen A. Bowman. And Stephen said,
Give it away.
C3PO would definitely be getting sloshed in the Mos Eisley Cantina. Got rejected.
Without a doubt.
Next is Cam Ray at Cam Ray. Are you going to say where to get your handle?
Way to get your handle, Cam.
Hey.
He said, L337 would use the opportunity to infiltrate the HoloNet with droid propaganda aimed at her non-droid oppressors. She would reveal the stockpile of intergalactic toilet paper she had rerouted to her compound, where Lando's are the only sweet cheeks being wiped with these bad boys. Oh my goodness.
You know,
Lando does have some sweet cheeks.
out of all of them so far, that is the most believable, probably. is that she would take the opportunity to be like, droid rebellion.
For Lando's sweet cheeks.
Sweet cheeks. Next is Alex Zukis at Zubaka. And Alex said, K2SO has stay inside and keep Cassian company because Cassian told him he has to.
Brutal. You know, when you think about it, L337 probably wouldn't be a big fan of Cassian Andor, the way he treats K2 sometimes.
I think K2 wouldn't like L3.
Yo, really?
I think they wouldn't get along.
Now we got to see it.
Do you think Cassian treats him poorly?
Well, he bosses him around a little bit, I think.
I think that's just how Cassian is. He bosses everyone around.
Yeah, that's fair.
Next is Luke the Force Ghost at Uncle Luke's Ghost. And they said C-3PO would go around telling everybody their odds of survival.
That is so
That is
good
accurate.
because he would. Yeah.
He totally would.
Yeah.
Next is Ryan Davis-19 at Ryan Q Davis. Interesting that Ryan has a COVID-19 name. Forget Halloween names. We're going COVID-19. Ryan said IG-11 would set himself to self-destruct just cuz.
I like that.
Me too. Guys, thank you so much. If you want to be on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. Look out for the scenario and then send in your tweets and you could be on the show. Thanks so much. Back to John.
Guys, thank you so much,
John.
Yeah, back to John.
No, that's what he picked. That was his one thing.
Oh, back to Tank.
Back
He's
to
trying
John.
Yeah.
Oh.
Back to Tank.
Yeah, back to John.
Man, I wish I had my back to Tank right now. My back hurts a little bit. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, listening, being a part of the Resistance. We really appreciate it. Again, we know everyone's going through kind of a weird time, uneasy time, unpredictable times right now, but we hope we're able to entertain you guys for about an hour or so, 2 times a week. As mentioned earlier, if you guys want some more of our content, go to our YouTube channel. Tomorrow, you're going to see James's The Clone Wars Fan Show, reviewing the next episode, rating it. A lot of fun there. And of course, patreon.com/resistance broadcast. If you want additional content, we have 8 mini episodes a month. We do Q&As. We have a group chat. We have a lot of good stuff going on there. So if you're down, check out the site, sign up. Starts at $2 a month. So let us know if you dig that, and we appreciate the support. I want to say a special thank you to our Patreon generals. Real quick here, we have Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, Micah Harrison, Tampa Movie Guy. And an extra shout out to Michael Gaines, who did such a great job in that pod race. Thank you so much, Michael, for that. And of course, Val Trichkoff Generals, thank you for all your support. Make sure you're all subscribed to us. We are everywhere. We're apparently except Google Play, but I don't know. That's their problem. They're a little site you may have heard of. But anyway, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, Stitcher, everywhere. So wherever you like your podcast, make sure you are subscribed because we do have 2 episodes a week. So keep up with us that way. And we appreciate that. StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. All the articles that we talk about on Mondays and Thursdays come from the work over at StarWarsNewsNet.com, including our awesome book review team as well. And that's that. You guys know TeePublic. Look up Resistance Broadcast. Our shirts are over there. Potentially some cool stuff coming down the line as we had teased on Monday. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and at StarWarsNewsNet.com. James?
Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks.
Still. Lacey?
I looked at James Biehn the other day. I was like, does this guy tweet? I don't know. He retweets stuff. It's just there's no chance that I just literally think there's no chance. He's never gonna give that up.
Make James Biehn happen. All right, Lacey?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin.
Guys, thank you so much once again. It's an honor to be able to keep doing this every week, and we're going to keep coming at you. And you know that we will be right back with you on Monday morning with another episode right here on the Resistance broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.